What is going on, guys? I'm David and welcome to the channel. As you know me, I'm always down to get out and go on an adventure. But I struggle a bit more when it comes to being consistent despite eating absolutely outrageous amounts of fiber. So I decided, why not set myself a challenge of being consistent for 30 days in January and go out for a run every single day. No crazy volume, just getting out there and doing it. So the first week came, it was pretty easy. I was rested from the holidays and I was still running on turkey and shepherd's pie. I thought this is gonna be a piece of cake. So I'd made a pretty detailed plan about this. I would run 7 days a week, like I said, and within these 7 days I would have 2 medium runs, 1 long run, 1 sprint session, and 3 easy days to allow my legs to recover. Like I said, I was doing pretty good on the first week. I had no fatigue in my legs. I felt weightless most of the time. So I thought this is gonna be a piece of cake, to be honest. And then came week 2 and everything went pretty much sideways, I would say. My legs were feeling weak. My knees were feeling, they were not painful, but they felt funny. And one of my ankle was giving me trouble. That was not a good sign, and the last thing that I wanted was to get hurt. So I seriously considered giving up at this point, only 1 week in, thinking, well, you know, it's not really worth it. What do I have to gain there? And then I stopped to think about what I'd been doing and if I'd made anything wrong. And I came to the conclusion that I'd made 2 crucial mistakes. The first one is I'd planned my week like an idiot. I mean, usually in a training program, you've got harder days and then easier days in between to allow your body to recover, which makes perfect sense when you think about it. But as it turns out, I'd planned my week in some sort of weird pyramid shape with all the hard stuff being in the same part of the week and having a long recovery time. So I went back to the drawing table and I made something that was a bit more sensible. Second of all, I realized that I had been focusing solely on running. In a typical week, I'll do 2, 3, 4 different activities. But within my first week, I had run 7 times. And in the meantime, I had ridden my bike exactly 0 times. And I'd been rock climbing, well, you guessed it, also 0 times. So it might seem like a stretch for some people, but cross training is extremely important and it allows you to recover better from running. So, for example, let's take cycling. Cycling is a very low impact activity. It allows you to bring blood flow to your legs without the impacts that you get while running. So it actually allows your legs to recover faster. Even if you're creating muscle damage, you're still getting a faster recovery by doing cycling, especially if you're doing moderate intensity. The same could be said about rock climbing. Rock climbing is a very low impact activity, and it's also not so much about endurance, especially for the legs. But when you think about it, rock climbing forces you to twist your body into unlikely position. It forces you to use the full range of motion of all of your joints, and it even builds strength by forcing you to do movements resembling the pistol squat or even pulling with your toes. So for a person who claims to be a jack of all trades, I'd been focusing solely on running, and that was a pretty terrible idea. So for week 2 of this challenge, I decided to dial everything way back, low volume, low intensity, just to recover as much as possible. And during this time, come up with a sensible schedule this time, including some cross training, and be ready to crush it during week 3. So that was day number 15, the first day of our 3rd week after a long rest during the 2nd week. And we still did a fairly low volume, but we increased the pace just a little bit. It felt good, it was not as cold as I thought, it was very manageable. So yeah, I'm glad to be on track. And we'll see how 3rd week goes. So the start of week 3 was way better. This being said, not everything felt perfect. My knees were still somewhat unstable and my legs, they just felt weird, to be honest. So I really had to consider giving up at this point for the sake of not getting hurt. Was this idea of consistency and discipline really worth the risks I was taking? I was gambling with my riding season, which is my absolute favorite thing to do. Were I to permanently damage my knees, I could say goodbye to the epic hikes and endless views from the top of mountains. I really had to stop and think. Is this really worth it? What am I even trying to achieve? But then, something happened. Between the days 17 and 20 of the challenge, my legs started feeling better and better. I was able to run slightly longer distance. So towards end of week 3, I was back on track and I was pretty confident. And then week 4 came, and to be honest, it just flew by. I barely noticed it. It was probably some of the easiest running I'd ever done. I felt weightless most of the time. I kept my runs relatively short, nothing over 5-6k, even when I felt like it, because I knew that I wanted to run every day. It's not about the distance, it's about the discipline. And with this mindset, it was easy to keep going. And I actually started noticing something pretty weird. My runs are spread throughout the day. They're different every single day because I'm a chaotic person. That's just how I work. And my legs would never feel totally fine until I went for my run. They would feel weird, and then I'd go for my run, and then I would feel rested. And just like that, within the blink of an eye.
So there you go, that was my run number 30, which means that I've officially succeeded at the 30-day challenge, which I'm pretty proud about because, like I said at the beginning of this challenge, consistency and all that is not really my forte, and also considering that during week 2 I was starting to get pretty anxious about getting hurt, but I decided to continue but do it wisely, so I dialed the volume back and all of that, as you've seen. So yeah, I'm really happy that I've done this. Am I going to continue? Well, we'll see a bit, I'll think about it, but I'm not really sure.
So in the end, I ended up not continuing to run every single day past the end of the 30-day challenge, because while I liked it, I saw much more benefit in doing different things all the time. But I'm glad that I tried. I'm very proud that I've succeeded. But in case you want to try this yourself, here's a couple considerations. So first of all, I think that running every single day and doing nothing else is probably the worst thing you can do. You're much better off doing some other type of activities just to make sure that you become a well-rounded athlete. Also, you should make sure to have a couple of different clothing sets that you can wear, because I wore the exact same kit for 30 days and I ran in temperatures going from 4 Celsius to -30, wearing the exact same thing, and let's just say that this was suboptimal most of the time. So maybe just go for a few different items that you can wear depending on whether it's dry or wet or if it's warm or cool. And finally, if you're going for something like this, keep in mind that you're not doing it for the volume, you are doing it for building the habit. So that's really something I should have kept in mind earlier, because when I started, I went way too hard, and that is what set the rest of this journey a little sideways. Keep the volumes low, make sure to be honest with yourself, because I considered myself an intermediate runner, but truth is I was probably a beginner at most, and that's it. Else than that, just make sure to enjoy the journey, listen to your body, and have fun. So thank you for running with me today. Next up, we will be back on the bike like we used to. So make sure to stick around, and I'll see you in the next one.